Welcome into the Stardom Situm Show, presented by Bridgestone Tires. Kimmy checks Michael Florio, and mailing it in from home today, it's Adam Rank. This is what you get when you don't show up to studio. I'm going to wear Packers gear every single week, Rank.
Don't think that I didn't notice that. Immediately when we came in on camera, I'm like, oh, of all days, I didn't know whether to be happy or not that I wasn't there while you were trying to hurt my feelings, but message received.
Yeah, message received. This is going to keep happening if you stay at home. But regardless, excited to come in with you guys and give you guys our favorite starts and sits for Week 13. I know we're getting closer and closer and closer to the fantasy playoffs, and we want to make sure you guys are prepared and ready to get to the championship. So let's go ahead and dig right in, guys. We ready? Let's go to some quarterbacks, Rank. Start us off with who you're loving and who you're hating this week.
Well, I really like Jalen Hurts, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, and Joey Burrow. I think those are all great starts. Matthew Stafford is somebody I'm going to probably shy away from this week in addition to Matt Ryan. Daniel Jones, it looked like he wasn't going to start earlier this week, but now it looks like he's been in practice. So regardless, we're not starting Daniel Jones and, of course, Mac Jones. I just think the matchup is way too tough. But may I say something about Joey Burrow, though?
Yeah, please do.
Let's dive right into Joe Burrow.
Let's get right into Joe Burrow.
Because I've been getting a lot of questions about this because the Chargers have a pretty tough defense and some questions about whether you start Joey Burrow or not. I really like him this week. I think that when you look at the Chargers and the Bengals, there are two teams that score the most points per game. They're high-scoring teams. The numbers on the board right there are correct. Joe Burrow has had at least 2 touchdown passes in 8 out of his last 9 games. The most interesting thing to me, though, is the Chargers have allowed a top 12 quarterback in 4 consecutive games, which means that people are able to move the ball against them. And you see right there, this is a good opportunity to also talk about Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson to me is somebody who's been killing your lineup for the last couple of weeks. I know he finished strong in Washington because he had 8 points on his last drive. But for me, I would start Joe Burrow over guys like Russell Wilson and Carson Wentz. Although I'd have Carson over Russell too.
Okay. All right. We love Joe Burrow. You guys know I love Joe Burrow. He's so swaggy. But a guy who was on your sit list, who you mentioned off the top, was Matthew Stafford. Not been so great lately. And he's taking on Jacksonville. And while you always say a lot of people think this could be an easy matchup, we actually think otherwise, which is why he's a sit.
That's true. And for me, for the Rams to be successful, they have to run the football. And I know it might feel great to go out there and have Matthew Stafford throw the ball 50 times. It is not good for the long-term health of this team. And Matthew Stafford just doesn't seem right at the moment. And he hasn't scored more than 15 fantasy points more than once in his last 3 games. And let's have a little bit of real talk about the Jags defense. They have not allowed a quarterback to throw 3 touchdown passes in a game all season. They're one of 4 teams who can make that claim. So for me, I look at all this. I see the way the Rams are playing. I know it. You see Jags, and you're like, well, I got to start him. I don't think you have to. I'm leaving Matthew Stafford on the bench.
Okay.
That's a little bold to me. I still have Matthew Stafford ranked in the top 12 quarterbacks. I do have him lower because of all the reasons you said, Rank, but I think that, the Rams are still going to come out a little angry and want to put some points on the board against the Jags.
But we've thought that the last few weeks. We're like, oh, that one loss, they're going to bounce right back, and then you do 3 in a row. And Matthew Stafford's not been good, but you're still confident he's a top 12 Week 13 quarterback.
It would be hard for me to sit him this week. I think once you get outside the top 11 quarterback options, it's hard to get not have Matt Stafford in the top 12, I think.
Okay, so you guys got to roll the dice on if you want to rock with Matthew Stafford or if you don't and you want to listen to Rank's advice. A quarterback I want to ask you about, though, Florio, is Kirk Cousins. He's taken on the Detroit Lions. His offense has been pretty darn good lately. Obviously, the most notable news, Dalvin Cook is out.
Yep.
Looking like Alexander Madison's going to get all the praise there, but we're assuming the passing game is still going to be solid.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins is still healthy. Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, they're all still healthy. So I think you just start Kirk Cousins, who has played great this year. I don't think enough people realize that he has been a top 12 quarterback more often this year than Patrick Mahomes. Earmuffs, Kimmy. I'm sorry.
No, don't say that. Don't say that in public.
He's been averaging 22 fantasy points per game against the Lions since 2019 with over 20 fantasy points in 3 of 5. Look, the Lions defense is just, they're not very good. So I think the Vikings will be able to score at will against them, and that means a good day for Kirk Cousins.
Okay. Rank, you like Kirky?
If there's a quarterback to me who's going to be in the all good mode, like let's go out there and put up a lot of points, it's more Kirk Cousins to me than Matthew Stafford. And so, yeah, I love Kirk. Like we've been on Kirk Cousins pretty much the entirety of the season. Last year he had 8 games where he threw 3 touchdown passes. And so we liked him coming into this season, and now he's a lock stop. Even when he has like kind of a bad game, I still start him. I have the utmost confidence in Kirk Cousins, which is a weird world for me to be existing in. But here we are.
Here we are. It's a weird season. It's 2021. Crazier things have happened. Those were our thoughts on quarterbacks. Let's go ahead and move to some must-start wide receivers, Adam Rank.
Well, we got Michael Pittman Jr. there against the Houston Texans, Devonta Smith, Brandon Cooks, Deontay Johnson's on this list. And, I had to block a couple people because they were pretty rude. I don't know that this is as much of a slam dunk as people are trying to make it out to be. I get questions. People ask me because of Ben Roethlisberger's noodle arm. Can they trust Deontay Johnson? And I'm like, yeah, I just want to reassure you. I'm sorry if you're so good at this that it's just an automatic play. Like, oh, I knew that. Well, fine, then start him. I don't care.
You had to block internet guy?
Internet guy also got in on Michael Pittman. Like, oh, you've got, I see you've got Michael Pittman on your list. I'm going to have to go ahead and bench him. I'm like, why are you benching him? Because he's playing against the Houston Texans. None of this makes sense to me. Michael Pittman has been one of the best receivers this year. He leads the Colts in the majority of the major receiving categories for the club. And this Houston Texans team can actually play. They can put points on the board and make this competitive. Plus, Houston has allowed the most receptions per game and the 3rd most fantasy points per game to receivers over the last 6 weeks. So what do you say to that, internet guy? They've given up a lot of fantasy production. I know that Jonathan Taylor could go out there and have a monster game. Both things can be true.
Yeah, and Michael Pittman, I understand the last couple of weeks haven't been what we wanted them to be. 2 weeks ago, Jonathan Taylor scored 5 touchdowns. I mean, he got all the production. Last week, I know the production wasn't there, but the opportunity was double-digit targets. And there was a few plays where, like, the Colts needed to convert on a passing play, and they went to Michael Pittman. So that's what you love to see. I agree. I think Michael Pittman is a guy that you just keep in your starting lineup.
Yes, even though we don't love Carson Wentz at times, we like Michael Pittman Jr. What does Rank say? 2 things can be the same? 2 things can be true?
True, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, 2 things can be true. Not love Carson Wentz, but love Michael Pittman Jr. Another guy who was on your stardom list was Devonta Smith facing the Jets this week. Tell me why you like him, because a lot of people are hot and cold, right? It was a very bad week for the Eagles last week, and people are kind of off of him and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, that's true. It was a bad week. I think a lot of that does stem from Jalen Hurts struggling a little bit, and that's fine. These are young players. They struggle. You know what? Can we start making excuses? Like, if this was Aaron Rodgers, nobody would care. Everybody would be, they would make excuses for him. I think that Jalen Hurts has been great over the for the season. So I give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to give Smith the benefit of the doubt here too, because he's got a great matchup. Over the last month, despite the bad game last week, he's still the wide receiver 16 over the last month. So he's been pretty consistent. Now he's going up against the Jets, who've allowed the 2nd most fantasy points to receivers this year. There was a time earlier in the calendar when teams just weren't throwing on the Jets for whatever reason. I guess they were just running the ball all the time. I still think that Devonta Smith will go out there and have a great game for you. So I have no hesitation at all.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, I love the matchup. And last week, I don't think we could hold it on Devonta Smith. Like, they threw to him 4 times, I believe it was. Like, listen, team, stop voluntarily taking your best pieces away. I understand defenses can be good, but so are your playmakers. Give them an opportunity. I think this week the Eagles will look to correct that and get Smith more involved.
I'm also not worried about Jalen Hurts this week either. So, guys, just don't be worried about Devonta Smith or Jalen Hurts. Sticking in this game, though, on the other side of the ball, there's another wide receiver that's come into our fantasy lives that we love, and it's Elijah Moore. So we want to continue to rock with him against the Eagles?
I would. I know Rank had him as a sit. I agreed with all of Rank's starts and sits except for Elijah Moore because I understand the matchup is tough, and last week didn't live up to our expectations. He was just under 10 fantasy points, but he did have 8 targets. That is now 6 straight games with at least least 6 targets. We've seen the ceiling that he brings, which is the wide receiver one. He finished once as the top scoring wide receiver, twice over 25 fantasy points, I believe. And the thing is, the opportunity is there. This is more about Zach Wilson, I think, than anything. But even in a tough matchup with Corey Davis not practicing and none of the Jets' other receivers really being a threat, I think a lot of volume once again goes Elijah Moore's way. I would still be starting him.
Rank, agree? Obviously you don't because you have him as a sit. Make your case, friend.
Well, the problem is over the course of the season, the Eagles have allowed the 3rd fewest fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. And to me, this comes down to the quarterback. You know, I can't believe I'm going to say this as well. If Joe Flacco was the quarterback, I would probably roll with it. You know what I'm saying? Or Mike White, whomever it is. I just don't trust Zach Wilson. I just don't think that he's getting him the football. We gave Zach Wilson the benefit of the doubt last week. We're like, okay, he's got to have learned his lesson. It appears like he hasn't. So until I see more consistency, and by the way, this has nothing to do with Elijah Moore.
Exactly.
I think he's very talented. I think he's a great receiver. If the Jets don't want to use him properly, send him to Chicago. But this to me is all about Zach Wilson, not Green Bay. They don't need a receiver. They're fine.
They're like, no, not Green Bay. Earmuffs, Jets fans. So sorry about Zach Wilson and that first-round draft pick. But hey, Elijah Moore, again, rolling the dice to see if you want to start him or you want to sit on these guys, 50-50 split. It's time for us to take a quick break. But are you in a tight spot about your tight end? Either you love them or you hate them because they ruin your week. But we've got our favorite starts and sits at the tight end spot coming up next. Welcome back into the Stardom Situm Show. It's time to get to Prepare to Perform, presented by Bridgestone Tires. Adam Rang, talk me through your starts, your sits at the running back position.
Well, we got AG leading off right there. Myles Gaskin, who performed really well thanks to 2 touchdowns last week. We got Boston Scott, Jamal Williams. We're going to see a lot of backup running backs make a huge impact this week. For the Situm side, Tevin Coleman, Rex Burkhead, Matt Breida. Nothing else. Nothing else to say. Oh wait, there's Saquon Barkley.
Ooh.
We can dive into that a little bit later.
Okay, let's start, however, with Antonio Gibson going to Las Vegas. Florio knows I have a personal beef with Antonio Gibson because every single time I start him, he does not do anything, and then every time I sit him, he blows up.
I don't think I've ever seen Kimmy more angry at a player than Antonio Gibson.
It's not like personal, it's just fantasy personal, right? A little beef with him, but we do like him against Vegas this week.
Yeah, you know what? The list of running backs who've had more carries than AG over the last 3 weeks, I'll go ahead and list them here. It's Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, that's it. That's the list.
Okay.
There is nobody running the ball more than Antonio Gibson. And it really goes back to something that Coach Ron Rivera talked about in the preseason that we love. They said that Antonio Gibson was going to be DC's CMC, but he was MIA for most of the year. So we were kind of, SM or whatever. He's had 72 rushing attempts over the past 3 weeks. He's hit at least 20 fantasy points in 2 of those 3 games. He had 29 carries on Monday night. Carries. Like, it's incredible to get 29 touches, to get 29 snaps for a running back. He had nearly 30 carries. And this week, he's going up against the Las Vegas Raiders, a team that you can run against. We've seen a lot of teams have success running the football against them. So I think Antonio Gibson's an excellent play.
Yeah, and the thing is, even last week, 29 carries, they threw the ball to him 7 times. It was awesome. J.D. McKissick scored the 2 touchdowns, so I get why you're so frustrated. But he is banged up now and might not play this week, which means I think all the work goes to Antonio Gibson. I have him as an RB1 this week.
Antonio Gibson, keep it up or else I'm fighting you, dude. I'm done with
Good
you.
luck.
But a controversial sit, Adam Ring. It's Saquon Barkley taking on the Miami Dolphins. I want to ask you, Florio. Do you trust sitting Saquon, right? Like you put him on his bench and then he goes off, or you start him and he's been meh like he has this season?
I think in an ideal world, I would want to sit Saquon Barkley, but in the leagues that I have Saquon, I just can't get myself to do it. So I'm still starting him against the Dolphins. Look, I understand it hasn't been pretty as of late, and it might not be again because the Giants are very banged up, so teams could really focus in on Saquon Barkley, but he is still a safe bet to get at least 15 touches. He could get even 20 if the Giants, could actually move the ball down the field. And while I have him ranked a lot lower than normal, it is still he's still in my top 20 ahead of guys like Jamal Williams, the Broncos running backs, the Eagles running backs. So while I would ideally like to sit him, I don't have it in me to. He's still Saquon Barkley. I'm still starting him.
Don't be tied to the name. Don't be tied to the name. Rank, get in here.
That's the thing, and I would ask anybody who's got Saquon Barkley right now, how is your league going? Like, how has it been the last couple of weeks when you needed to win fantasy matchups, and Saquon's getting you maybe double-digit points, depending on whether it's PPR or half-point PPR. He has not rushed for 60 yards this season. The past 2 games, he has not had 60 total scrimmage yards. We have to have a realistic look at this, and now they've got one of the toughest matchups you can imagine going up against the Miami Dolphins. There's a chance that Mike Glennon could be the quarterback. I don't think Freddie Kitchens is setting the world on fire. I think this is one of those instances that you can do this every week where you're like, I'm going to start my stud, but you know what? I got Boston Scott, and I'm starting Boston Scott because he's getting as much opportunity as Saquon Barkley is. The only difference is Boston Scott takes advantage of his opportunities. Saquon is not. Listen, it's I understand, like, you get connected to these names, but it's insane. Like, if you were trying to, like, if you were talking to somebody who didn't know who these players were, and you were just putting out the statistics, and you'd be like, who would you start? Like, everybody would be like, why are you starting Saquon Barkley? Like, why are you starting player B in this? Like, you wouldn't do it. So I think that, you need to have honest conversations with yourself when you're setting your lineups. Now, if you want to go, like, I'm not going to start. I'm going to look at some of the names here. I'm cheating. But, like, if you have Alex Collins or Matt Breida or something, like, obviously.
Right.
Obvious. But, like, Tony Pollard is a great example. I think I'm going to go Tony Pollard over Saquon Barkley this week.
Okay. Anything else while we're ranting about Saquon? Anything else, Rank?
I'm just trying to help people out. For everybody who gets upset about, like, Deontay Johnson's too obvious, when you hit them with straight truth about, like, I don't like Matthew Stafford this week, I don't like Russell Wilson, I don't like Saquon Barkley, they're like, oh my God, well, how could you do that? Like, make up your mind, pick a lane, stick in it. I'm just going to give you the real talk, though.
Hey, we like real talk. That's what we do here on the Stardom Sit 'em Show. But nonetheless, don't necessarily be tied to the big name guys. If you look at their numbers and just see that they're just not there. This is your playoff push, right, guys? So make sure you look at the matchups, you look at the number and the production, and don't just go after the big names. All right, we promised that we get you to some tight ends. So Rank, talk us through some of them.
Well, Pat Freiermuth has been in concussion protocol, so that's going to be an injury that we're going to monitor throughout the week. Logan Thomas. Bro, I thought you caught that ball. I'll give you that one. You know what? I want to say one thing while this list is up. Earlier, Monday night, actually it's Tuesday morning. It was 1 a.m. Tuesday morning. I sent out a list to all the producers here, to the editorial desk, starts and sits. I had Dawson Knox as a sit. Kimmy, it was you, Cynthia, and me on the set of NFL Fantasy Live on Tuesday afternoon before Rob Gronkowski surprised us. We were talking about Dawson Knox.
Yep.
And you and Cynthia made the astute point of, like, Dawson Knox, I don't think he really falls into that category of, like, hey, the Patriots have shut down opposing tight ends.
Right.
Because, number one, he runs a lot of routes, like, out of the slot and out wide. He's not a traditional tight end. He's a physical mismatch. So I actually moved him off the sit list.
Wow.
He is, so, like, as you see right there, I would start him. So I feel comfortable starting him. I just want to put that out there into the universe. For anybody
Look at
who's
us.
curious.
Cynthia and I, we're making changes around here. This is very good.
What do you want me to do? You guys make great points, and you go back and you look at the information. This is what this is what you should be doing. Like, we should be like, okay, like, oh, that's a good way of thinking about it. Went back, examined it. All right, you're right. I'm going to start him.
I'm going to brush off my shoulders there. A little pat on the back for Cynthia and I. Fire up Dawson Knox. But a name on your list. It's Ryan Griffin, right? You just said that you did not feel comfortable with Elijah Moore. But, hey, we like Ryan Griffin as a tight end.
Well, it's the Family Guy, and I've already written a song for it that I'll break out if he scores a touchdown. We're doing That Helps No One on Monday. But here's the thing, is the Eagles give up the most fantasy points to tight ends this year. It's not something that I've made up. Like, it just happens. Chris Myrick, who last week on this show, we were like, start Chris Myrick. He is going to, no, we didn't say him. We were all in on Evan Ingram. But the thing is, look, the Eagles give up a ton of production to the tight end position. I just can't make this up. And you know what? Some rando is going to score a tight end against them. Why can't it be the Family Guy, Ryan Griffin? Now, let me tell you something. Do not play him over Travis Kelce. Do not. But look at Conklin. I don't like his matchup this week. I think that Jared Cook one's a mistake, by the way. I wrote that in. I was not thinking Jared Cook's I think Jared Cook's a better play this week. Anyways, whatever. But CJ Uzomah, the Chargers shut down tight ends. I think if you're looking for a tight, here's my main thing. If you have Darren Waller, and you could not pick up Foster Moreau, and you're like, I don't know what to do. Cole Kmet's got a tough matchup against the Arizona Cardinals, who don't give up a lot of production to tight ends. If you're desperate for a tight end, I think you can pick up the family guy, Ryan Griffin.
All right, Family Guy, come through on Sunday, but a name that was on your sit list, it's Tyler Higby. We already said we're out on Matthew Stafford this week, so it just makes sense that Tyler Higby follows suit.
Yeah, you know what? The Jacksonville Jaguars are actually kind of tough against tight ends. Last week, they shut out Kyle Pitts. I know a lot of people went into that game being like, we're starting Kyle Pitts. It's the Jags. And then the Jags shut him down. And I think what we're seeing with this Rams offense is that, number one, I want them to run the football, like a lot. But he's so far down the pecking order. I mean, Cooper Kupp gets double-digit targets. Odell Beckham Jr. last week got double-digit targets. Van Jefferson is their pop player. They need to run the football a lot more. So to me, this is an easy sit. I have no hesitation sitting him.
Yeah, completely agree. I've dropped Higby in all the leagues that I had him in because early in the year they were utilizing him. They were running more routes for him with 2 wide receiver sets, kind of with Woods and Cooper Kupp. But that has changed. They have gone full into this 3 wide receiver set with Odell, Van Jefferson, Cooper Kupp. And with that happening, those guys are getting all the targets, and Tyler Higby is really not. So not only am I sitting him, I've dropped him everywhere I have him.
Oh, y'all fully broke up.
I'm done with Tyler. Sorry, it's not me. It's you, Tyler Higby.
Okay. Yeah. He's like dishing out bachelor lines at this point. Pat Freiermuth, though, rank called his quarterback having a noodle arm.
Yeah.
But we like him this week against Baltimore.
The thing is, Pat Freiermuth isn't a downfield receiver, so a noodle arm plays into his strengths because he's going to be running those short to intermediate routes. And I just wanted to highlight Freiermuth. He did get a full practice in yesterday. If he plays, you play him. I think he has reached the point where he is a must-start tight end right now. He leads the league in the position in touchdowns over the last month. You see, since week 6, he is the tight end 4. And I just think if you have Pat Freiermuth, he's everything we wanted Kyle Pitts to be right now. You just start him each and every week.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
The unicorn Kyle Pitts. We'd be saying we like Pat Freiermuth over Kyle Pitts. All right, you see it right here every single week. This guy. You compile a list of rankings at every single fantasy position. So if you want to learn more, go to NFL.com/rankings to see Florio's complete list. Also, if you want to see a full list of ranked starts and sits, go to NFL.com/start-sit. All right, there's still more to come, and it's the best block of the show. We got our favorite starts of the week, and there may just be a money gun appearance. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the Stardom Sit-Em Show presented by Bridgestone Tires. You guys, we have legs. We're standing. Normally it's just rain, but since he ditched us, now it's us too.
I'm sitting now.
I know, now you're sitting. Roles reversed, but I need you to give me your Colonel starts of the week.
You know what? I'm going to start at the quarterback position and say Lamar Jackson, who's coming off a 4-interception game. But what's interesting to note here, Lamar Jackson is 6-2 in games following multi-interceptions. And actually, he started off at 6-0. He's lost his last 2. But let's just go with the positive and say that he's 6-2. The most important thing to note here is that he's averaged over 75 rushing yards per game since week 9. That is 10th in the NFL. Like, of all the runners, not just quarterbacks. He's obviously the top quarterback, but 10th in the NFL in rushing. And he's got a really good matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers in a game that they need to win. So we love him. I'll stay in this game because I want to talk about Naji Harris. And again, this might seem obvious, but the Ravens have been really good against the run this season. And no team, they've allowed less than 85 rushing yards per game on average to opposing running backs. But I think right there is the reason why you continue to start Naji Harris each and every week. It's his ability as a receiver out of the backfield. And of course, he's getting all the goal line work. He's not giving up any looks to anybody. Every once in a while, he'll throw a shovel pass to Freiermuth, but you can pretty much feel comfortable starting him. So we'll go with him. And then can I just jump to Justin Jefferson? Get this one out of the way. I think that as much as we love talking about Kirk Cousins, and apparently I do, because I talk about Kirk Cousins all the time, Justin Jefferson just seems to get overlooked a lot as one of the best receivers in the game. And to me, it's kind of baffling. I don't think that there's anybody right now, if you're doing a dynasty, what we talked about last week for it, Michael? Like, we're talking about, like, is there a better dynasty guy right now than Justin Jefferson? I don't think so.
Yeah.
He has 1,000 receiving yards. He's third in the NFL. He's had close to 2,500 receiving yards since 2020, which is second in the NFL to just Devonta Adams. And so to me, again, I think that the Vikings are prone to go out in this game against the Lions. They want to go out and prove a point, want to let everybody know that they're still there. They're still rocking. They're still in the playoff race. I don't know. It's so weird. It's so convoluted in the NFC. Like, they're not in the playoffs right now. They are. The FT's ahead of them. So much weird stuff going on, but I think this is going to be a great game for all the Vikings, and I would also start Adam Thielen in this. But Justin Jefferson, I feel he needs a little love. That's all.
I have Justin Jefferson as my wide receiver 2, not like a wide receiver 2. Only Cooper Kupp I have ranked ahead of him. I just traded for Naji Harris in the league. He's in my top 5. I'm feeling really good about that rank. And then on Lamar Jackson, he said after that game, he was like, I am not at full strength after I had this virus last week. I was struggling to get all my, the air on the ball. I'm willing to give him a pass for last week. I think Lamar is back to being Lamar this week.
He's still Lamar Jackson. 4 interceptions at all, and he also won the game. So you can't hate the man, even though he had a bad week. All right, that was your Curdle Starts of the Week, presented by KFC. It's time now to take it to the rank, a.k.a. the crazy, crazy, weird streets of Twitter, especially NFL fantasy Twitter. But Rank, this first question for you. How much of a workload does Zeke get this week? He has a tough matchup against the Saints, so do I go with Jamal Williams from the Lions instead?
This is going to sound crazy, but I have Jamal Williams as my running back 12, which would make him an RB1. I think Jamal Williams, I have him one spot ahead of Ezekiel Elliott. This is the time of the year, I don't care who you are. Are you playing well or not? To me, I'm going to go with Jamal Williams.
All right, this one for you, Florio. I need some help in my flex. Should I start Saquon Barkley, who you talked about earlier, or Terry McLaurin?
This is actually a situation where I would be okay sitting Saquon Barkley, because I know Terry McLaurin has been up and down this year, but his ceiling is very high, and I feel like it's higher than Saquon. So while both of them kind of bring a low floor as of right now, I would go with the higher upside play, which I think is Terry.
Who would have thought?
This look on my face is vindication. Vindication.
You're fine. Let's take his face away. All right, this one back for you, Rank. Do I bother starting DeAndre Hopkins? I have Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, and Hunter Renfrow.
You know what? I think that Waddle and Chase are so exceptional. I would start them for sure. Hunter Renfrow's the one that I could go either way on. So I think that DeAndre Hopkins over Hunter Renfrow, I think that's a move that I would make, even though Hunter Renfrow has been great. DeAndre Hopkins, I think, if he's healthy enough to be put out there, it's a good matchup against the Bears. Jalen Johnson, doesn't really shadow the top receivers that much. So I think they'll find a way to get him open. So I would go with D-Hop.
Okay.
I would play D-Hop, but for me, it comes down to Renfrow or Chase, because I think Chase is the ceiling play there and all the upside, but Renfrow is as safe as they get. So I guess it kind of depends on what you need there. I lean a little bit towards Renfrow. Surprising to say, even to myself.
Really?
Yeah, he's been so good as of late.
I know. I mean, Jamar Chase started off so hot this season, but the last few weeks it's been more so T. Higgins than it has been Jamar Chase. But I don't know. That's a tough question. That's like a really good problem to have in Week 13, to be honest. All right, guys, I said it was going to get fun. We're going to go to the club, a.k.a. our Club Dub Players of the Week. Adam Rank, start us off.
You know what? I'm going to go with Tom Brady. I think that he bounces back this week after giving all the love to Leonard Fournette, letting him have all the glory for a week. Now it's his time going up against the Atlanta Falcons, a team he has never lost to. Here's the most interesting thing to me. Tom Brady, in his career against the Falcons, has 24 touchdowns and just 3 interceptions.
Oh.
You mean to tell me he's not going to throw 4 touchdowns to go 28-3 on them?
Ayo, I knew you were going. I knew you were going there.
But also, can I say one other thing?
Yes.
If anybody remembers, Florio, you might not have been alive for this, the Jonas Gray game of 2014, when he had 4 touchdowns on a Sunday night game.
Oh, I remember.
By the way, I called that. By the way.
Did you?
I was never given the propers for that. But in any event, The game after that, Tom Brady came out and had 349 and a pair of touchdowns, which isn't quite as great as I thought it was going to be, but still came out 350, 2 touchdowns. If he does that here this week against the Falcons, I'd be very happy.
28-3 at minimum. That's the score of the game against the Falcons. Your Club Dev Player of the Week, Florio. Let it rain.
I was so excited. I shot the money gun a little early, but it is Alexander Madison, who has just been awesome in games where Dalvin Cook has missed this year. I mean, in those 2 games, 32 touches in each of them, over 150 yards, over 23 fantasy points. All of those are numbers that Dalvin Cook has not reached in any game this season. So Madison has actually been better than Cook when he gets the start. The Lions, we know you can run all over them. I'm starting all my Vikings this week, but Alexander Madison is in my top 5 running backs. I love him this week.
Okay, I like Alexander Madison. You know what? I like Alexander Madison so much. You just said you're going to start all your Vikings. My Club Dub Player of the Week is none other than Kirk Cousins. You guys give me a bunk money gun? Really? All right, I'm gonna make it rain anyway. I'm starting Kirk Cousins against the Detroit Lions, sticking in that same game. Now, I know we hyped him up earlier, and Florio said he's a good start, and that's because he's consistently been good this season. He's had a 5-week streak with at least multiple touchdown passes. That's 2 or more touchdown passes in every single game. We know the productions that the Detroit Lions put up. We were just saying how good Adam Thielen was. We were just saying how good Justin Jefferson was. We like Alexander Madison in place of Dalvin Cook. All eyes are on this matchup. All eyes on the Vikings.
There's a theme here.
It's a theme. All eyes on the Vikings. So let's fire him up. This was fun. I like this standing thing. Rank, I miss you, but this is like a true Club Dub. This is a party, baby. We hope you party your way into week 13. We got some Thursday night football tonight. The Saints and the Cowboys. But for now, Kimmy checks. Michael F. Florio, Adam Rank. This was the Stardom Cinema Show presented by Bridgestone Tires.
That's a cool look.
Look at our money. You guys have to be really big fans to try to get those bucks.